Hey guys, welcome to part 2. This is the multiplayer one. That's right, more multiplayer stuff going on, which is lovely. Balance changes. It's a patch notes thing. You can tell by the title of this video. I'm sure you've figured it out by now. So, spell and unit balancing straight away. Oh, first off, thanks to this guy. Thank you so much. I can't access the blog, so this guy copied and pasted into the forums. He didn't do it for me, he just did it for everyone. I don't know who he is, but thank you, buddy. You are the best. I don't know how to say your name, but you're amazing, and keep doing what you do. You're the best. Cool. Awesome. So, spell and unit balancing. General. Rebalanced all vortex, breath, wind, and explosion abilities, as a bug that was making them use a reduced radius for area of effect was fixed. So that's kind of crazy, isn't it? All of these things were actually affecting a smaller area than they were supposed to. Yeah, I didn't notice. Did anyone else notice? But yeah, apparently they weren't hitting everything they were supposed to, which is kind of crazy. So yeah, a bit of rebalancing is probably worthwhile if they're now hitting everything they're supposed to be hitting. So summoning changes. Summoned units are no longer unbreakable. This is gigantic. It means you can actually crumble stuff, which is incredible. That is so good. It means you can't just throw zombies all over a backline and then, you know, cackle like a necromancer. No, you have to use summoned units a little bit more cleverly, and they're not going to be half as overpowered as they were, because summon spam is almost impossible to deal with. I mean, you can bring like 2 necromancers and a master necromancer all with zombie summons and just carpet the entire map in zombies in the course of a battle. It's ridiculous. So now you can't do that, which is really good. So also, it's changed the cost of a few of them, which is nice. Redesigned Unbinding to apply for a set duration. So this is another massive change. Not only will they get beaten up quicker and, you know, crumble or run away or whatever, but no, they have different phases for their unbinding. So, first phase, very light damage. I can barely notice any damage at all in this phase. But then there's a very short second phase, which just kills them in seconds. They just die straight away. So now summons will expire after a set and predictable duration. And this is them. So, Realm of Souls. Oh, wait, nope. Tombblade of Arcan. So skeleton warriors from Tombblade of Arcan last 82 seconds. And they're dead. Then they're dead, okay? Just gone. It doesn't matter if they're on, like, full health. They'll just die after that much time, which is awesome. Realm of Souls, 92 seconds. Transformation of Kadon, 96 seconds. And I think it costs a little bit more? Or a little bit less? Was it 12 before? I can't remember. I'm trying to think. Or was it 14? Maybe it's a little bit cheaper. I can't remember. If someone can remember the original cost, let me know. But still, yeah, 13 cost, and you only get a minute and a half out of it. And the Vargolf as well, the other transformation of Kadon, yep, 77 seconds. And Denizens of the Deep, so that's the Rotting Prometheans, only 71 seconds. I mean, this is huge, right? So you really need to put them on something you know is going to get you value, right? You need to put it on something you know is going to do the damage that is worth the amount of cost. Or, you know, I guess if it's the big crabs, maybe it's just to get your guy out of dodge, right? You might have someone getting gooned and you want something with mass and armor just to pin stuff down. Stuff like that. But you have to use this stuff more tactically now. You can't just summon it somewhere and let them fight forever. Drowned Dead, 88 seconds. Captain Roth's Moondial, 88 seconds. Drowned Dead upgraded, a little bit longer, which is good. So it is upgraded, costs more. So that's, yeah, 2 minutes of extra guns, essentially. Which is kind of crazy, because yeah, with them staying at almost full health and then immediately dying after that time, I think Drowned Dead upgraded might actually be a little bit better than it was. Maybe. So that's interesting. Ghost of the Past, 93 seconds. Savage Dominion, it's 101 seconds. Maternal Instinct, that's the Ragnarok Spiders one, isn't it? Yeah, 100. So that's actually significant. 180 seconds. Awaken from the Grave, 86. Awaken from the Grave upgraded a little bit more, as you'd expect. That's a White King instead of a Graveguard, so, you know. Staff of Corruption, so that's the Chaos Spawn, so a minute and a half there. Same with Spirit Essence of Chaos. Feral Cold Ones, this is only relevant in campaign, I believe. Yeah, you know, there's no multiplayer thing for summoning Cold Ones, that's just a campaign thing, but still, it applies to them too. Raised Dead lasts a couple minutes, but cost has gone to 4, and cooldown has increased, so you can do it less often, which is really good. Raised Dead upgraded, actually less time for the Skeleton Warriors. Significantly less time, which is kind of cool. So, Vermintide, 67 seconds, 67 seconds, 73 seconds, like all of these guys. Eagle Sanctuary, so that, again, I think is a campaign-only thing. I think that's a summonable eagle when you're in the eagle, like when you're in the Phoenix Gates, I believe. the Great Gates of Ulthuan or whatever. I think that's them. So that's something. Well, Menace Below as well is obviously campaign as well. But yeah, it's just great. This is a great change, I think. From playing with it, it makes a lot more sense. Summons aren't as overpowered. They're a bit predictable when they disappear. And yeah, it just makes more sense. You can't just bog down entire army with summons. Like, you have to use them more surgically. You have to put them on something valuable, and it'll just gain you some time. It won't just, you can't just rely on the summons to kill everything that you want to kill. You actually have to do that with the army that you brought, which that's what you'd assume would be the case, right? So it's good. It's really good. And now onto the unit stats. This is my favourite bit, guys. This is my favourite bit. So Dark Elves, the Hydra and the Chilisontar and the Charybdis are all getting plus 10 armour. So that's, that's basically an extra between 5 and 10% damage resistance for non-AP damage. So it's something. It's something. It does help them a little bit. Knights of the Ebon Claw. They're actually going to be slightly worse, but slightly cheaper, which I kind of like. I think Knights of the Ebon Claw were a bit too expensive to risk ever bringing. So just having them a little bit cheaper, but slightly worse for it, I think is going to make them more viable, honestly. So that's nice, because you don't often see them. Crone Hellebron on Foot, Darksteed, and Manticore has more melee defense. She's very glass cannony, and sometimes she does just get wrecked. So having some extra melee defense, it lets her hold up in a duel, which is nice. Cold One Knights. Oh, actually, that will have a knock-on effect, because that might be the difference between losing and winning melee combat. In a few cases, which means her item can proc and start damaging people nearby. So that's very cool. Cold One Knights, slightly worse. Dread Knights, slightly worse. Cold One Chariots, slightly worse. This is a shame, huh? This is a shame. But, did notice in the last patch, the amount of Cold One Knights that were being brought by the Dark Elves was just obscene. Barely any other cavalry was being brought along. This was the main killing power of the army. People weren't relying on the big monsters so much. They were just bringing a ton of knights, and they were performing very, very well. So lowering the stats slightly, I think, is a nice change. And yeah, I think this fits. I can see why this has been done, because these guys are way too prevalent in multiplayer right now, I think. K-Knight Assassin added a Vanguard deployment. Yeah, it's about time, I think. It's about time. Also, the projectile does poison. So yeah, it feels more like an assassin, right? This is much more like an assassin. He's also a little bit quicker, so he can outrun a few more units. That's really good. Bolt Fiends, though, cheaper. That is huge. Bolt Fiends, they're the Regiment Renown my mind's gone blank, guys. The Dark Shards, that's it. Dark Shards. They're the Regiment Renown. They have longer range. I think Shield Breaker as well, but they have longer range and they do more damage than the regular ones. I mean, range is something that really screws them over, the Dark Shards. So Bolt Fiends having better range, they're just a great unit. They're a really good unit, so for them being cheaper, I think we're going to see a lot of Bolt Fiends. Also, Black Ark Corsairs, slightly better versus infantry. Oh, okay, little change. High Elves, Lawmaster of Hoeth, less charge bonus, but he's a lot cheaper, which is really cool to see, because, I mean, usually people are just bringing just sort of the legendary lords, right, for spellcasters a lot of the time. So it's nice to see the Lawmaster of Hoeth being a little bit more viable. He's not quite the same as a legendary lord caster, right? He's sort of like a lower level caster that can survive a bit in the front line, which I like. He's an interesting pick, but does get ignored a lot, because just having something like Teclis and a couple of nobles, you're usually fine. So, it's, yeah, I like that. That's a nice change. Makes them a little bit more viable. Nobles, slightly worse as well. Yeah, clearly nobles were being picked too much. They were like, let's make the Lawmaster of Hoeth a little bit better. Princess on a Moon Dragon has a little bit more armor, which I quite like. Dragons have such little amounts of armor. So just having a little bit extra is nice. Elithanar, increased projectile accuracy, and extra AP damage and base damage. So Elithanar, he's just going to be doing a lot more damage and hitting more. So just more damage all round, basically. So that's good, because he kind of sucks in multiplayer. Swordmaster Hoeth, plus 5 leadership, so they won't break as often. I like that. Moon Dragon, plus 10 armor, just like the mount. Frost Heart Phoenix. Alright, yeah, I like that. So less charge, so less cycle charging with him. I mean, -2, not huge, but still, It's gearing him more towards prolonged combat, because he's just got better melee attack and he can sit and do more damage. So prolonged fighting now for the Frostheart Phoenix, maybe. We might see more of that. So that's a nice change. It's a very small tweak. I say small, the bonus damage is actually pretty significant, so that's pretty good. Sun Dragon, slightly more armor. Illyrian Reavers are cheaper, which makes sense because no one ever brings Illyrian Reavers. They always bring the Illyrian Reaver Archers because there's only like 50 difference in cost, so there's no point ever not bringing them with bows. So having the standard ones slightly cheaper makes a lot of sense because, you know, you just don't need them otherwise. I think a bit cheaper is nice. And Lordmaster Hoeth, yes, slightly cheaper. That sort of covered already, but thanks. Empire. Volkmar the Grim. On foot, Warhorse, and Barded Warhorse has more melee defense, which is good. He should be fairly survivable. And when he's on the War Altar of Sigmar, he actually gets plus 15 bonus versus infantry, and he's a bit cheaper. That's kind of huge. That's kind of massive. That is a massive bonus versus infantry. He should be able to do some serious damage now in the front line, not just with his sort of spells and abilities. He should be able to just wail on people, which is really cool. I really like that. Love Volkmar. Hellblaster Volley Gun, now more accurate. I like that because rarely get to see a Hellblaster Volley Gun. It would be nice to see more of them. They are very cool units. They are very good. I love them against Dwarfs. If you can keep them alive, they're very fun. Witch Hunters. Accusation is now a Hex. This is a big one. So Accusation used to just do damage to stuff. It was like Spirit Leech. But no Winds of Magic. That's basically what it did. It was a bit boring, honestly. It was a bit boring. It's now a Hex, so it no longer deals direct damage. Instead, it reduces armor by 30, melee defense by 26, and missile resistance by 22. And so it's basically just the Witch Hunter saying to his men, that thing needs to die. And everyone goes, alright mate, we can do it. So I love it. I love this. This is really good. So cheaper archers will do substantially more damage to enemies. So use this on something like, say, a Hydra, maybe. Just a load of crossbowmen or something. Yeah, missile resistance down, they're going to do a bit extra damage there, and with lower armor, they're going to do a bit extra damage again. Or, if something is bogged down, or if it's a duel happening, a lord and hero are fighting, you obviously got him blasting them with his pistol, but you can just go boom. Lower the melee defense. Let your lords and heroes do the damage, which I really like. These are all sort of geared towards offensive behavior rather than defensive. It's all lowering their ability to defend themselves, not their ability to attack, which I think makes a lot of sense. It's, yeah, just let's get him, boys. That's what it should be called. Let's get him, boys. That's more orky, but, you know, it's cool. Also, Steam Tank. Extra melee attack. About time. Now the Steam Tank is perfect. He's in a perfect place. No, the Steam Tank is still so niche. He's such a niche pick, but a bit of extra melee attack. It means he will be able to do a little bit more in combat if he gets bogged down by something. So I think fair enough. Because yeah, no melee defense on this guy. He needs to be able to at least do damage. So yeah, it's a step in the right direction. In fact, all of this seems to be a step in the right direction. I'm really impressed by these patch notes. It all makes sense to me. So, Greenskins fixed animation issue that was increasing Wyvern flying attack. Flying melee attack interval by seconds. That sounds rubbish. That sounds very bad to have huge delays between attacking. So now the Wyvern will just be better. It'll be able to get more attacks in, which is huge. Grimgore and Skarsnik both got 400 health. Footlords are getting some bonuses, which is great. Giants turning into sprinters now. Plus 3 run speed. It's not huge, but a little bit of a difference. So that's nice. Giant a little bit quicker. They are very slow. So, yeah, that extra 3 speed is actually kind of nice. Doom Divers are now going to be doing a lot more AP damage and less damage, normal damage. But AP is guaranteed damage, well, except for, like, physical resistance and stuff. But anyway, it's against armor, it's guaranteed damage, whereas this can still get negated by armor. So that's actually substantially more damage against most units. So, big upgrade to the Doom Divers there. And again, I think that makes sense. I think it makes a lot of sense, because right now they're sort of in a niche where they're quite good against things like Wood Elves, right? Because they don't do a lot of APs, you just sort of shoot them at things like, because of the homing missiles, you can sort of chase skirmishers with them, essentially. Kill some models of Way Watchers and stuff. They're in that kind of niche. But now, you might be able to use them more offensively against some more valuable targets, which is kind of cool. It'd be interesting to see what people make of this. Yeah, it's going to make them more useful in different circumstances now, which is cool. Venom Queen, plus 14 bonus versus large. That's pretty cool. I like the sound of that. That's pretty awesome. Assuming the Venom Queen is the Arachnarok Spider Queen, right? The Arachnarok Queen. Is she called the Venom Queen? I was called the Arachnarok Queen. Is she called the Venom Queen? Huh. Anyway, bonus versus large, which is cool. Ragnarok Spider bonus versus large. That's really nice. That is a huge bonus versus large for both those guys. So it's going to be really interesting to see, again, how that comes to power, really. It's going to be cool, because, I mean, Ragnarok's, is it against Bretonnia? Quite a lot, and that bonus versus large means they're going to be even better there. They're going to be a lot better at fighting things like knights. So, and with the terror chasing away the peasants, I think, yeah, they're going to be very, very good. That is not insubstantial. That's very cool. So, Dwarves, Belagar gets some more health. Again, Footlords getting some love. Thorgrim getting a lot of love here. So, way more damage here. More armor, more health, more melee attack. Thorgrim was definitely getting left behind. In the meta, so this is wonderful. This is really cool. I mean, the only reason to bring Thorgrim was, do I need magic damage? If the answer is yes, you bring Thorgrim, otherwise you don't bother. So that's really cool to see, that he's going to be, he's going to be the freaking High King for once. It's going to be great. This is nice. These are some good changes. Ungrim, more health and melee defense. He did seem to go down pretty quickly to anything. Any armor-piercing infantry could just surround him and murder him. So it's nice that he can shrug off some damage a bit longer, so that's good. And the extra health as well will obviously help. Grombrindle is cheaper, and the Rune Lord is more expensive. I've been seeing, I think the last patch as well made the Rune Lord slightly more expensive. So they're still just trying to make the other Dwarf Lords viable, because the Rune Lord is still the instant pick in most matchups, so this is great. Hammerers, extra melee defense. Gateguard, extra melee defense. So again, I like that. Hammerers just being a little bit more robust. You know, they can go toe-to-toe with things a little bit longer. Not a huge change, but again, I like that, because they did seem to get killed quite quickly a lot of the time, against sort of other armor-piercing sort of anti-infantry units. So it was quite tough for them sometimes to get that damage in. So yeah, that very small change, but kind of feels right to me. Kind of feels right. Gyrocopters with brimstone guns, more AP projectile damage, and more damage and slight accuracy increase. So brimstone guns should be better at shooting stuff, which I like, because again, super niche unit, super niche. So that's nice to see. Giant Slayers are now cheaper. That is huge, because honestly, they're just like Slayers, but you have to be on something super heavily armored for it to be more cost effective than Slayers. I think it's like over 100 and maybe like 120 armor is where they start to get more useful than just Slayers for their cost, which is too much. There aren't enough things with that much armor that they're going to make use of themselves against. So them being a bit cheaper, it means they're still a niche, but at least, yeah, you're not just going to waste them most of the time. So that's really good. That's really good. I like that. Vampire Coast. Noctilus. On foot, minus 10 armor, minus 500 health. Yeah, brilliant. Brilliant. He's got too much armor. He's got too much health. That's perfect. Well, maybe not perfect. You can probably go further, to be honest. He's just indestructible, this guy. But that will go a long way to remedying his sort of just uncanny ability to stay alive forever. It's ridiculous, so that's good. That's a change in the right direction. Mournguls, now less armor, which is interesting, so you're able to get more damage into them with just sort of cheaper things like Spearmen, which is, again, really good, you know? You should be able to punish sort of low armored units like that in combat. It means that knights are going to be better against them. There are so many knights in the game that have like anti-large but not armor piercing, right? So less armor on the Mournguls, I mean they can be countered more easily, because Mourngull spam is a real thing and it's very irritating to face up against, so that's nice. Slightly lower melee attack as well, so they won't quite clean things up as quickly. This feels right. Same with the Night Terrors and the Mourngull Haunter as well. Just across the board, same changes. And that all feels right to me. I feel like they were just a bit too survivable a lot of the time. Even when you sort of hard countered them with a cavalry charge or something, they could still usually get out of it and get healed by Noctilus and no harm done, you know? So that's nice. I like that. Gunnery mobs. Less health, less melee defense. Good. Good. It's about time. Also, the handgunners, slightly less AP, but more base damage. So that evens out against something with no armor, but against armored targets can do less, which is good. I like that. Hand cannons seem... Oh wait, no, there's the hand cannons, not the handguns. Hand cannons. I still never really seen a use for these guys. So I don't know if that's entirely necessary, but I'm sure CA has some stats on that. So this one, it's not that I disagree with it. I don't know. I've got like no point of reference. No one ever brings hand cannons. So maybe just, I don't know, give them a hand cannon. Let them do something. Just, I never see these guys. Lamprey's Revenge, though, they're more expensive. That makes a lot of sense. Lamprey's Revenge are crazy. They never die. They regenerate. They have 1 billion armor. A huge amount of melee defense. They're basically treekin that can kill everybody and have like gunmen on their backs. They're crazy. Lamprey's Revenge are nuts. They should be more expensive. That is great. I'm very happy about that. They are basically an instant pick in most matchups. So, yeah, make them more expensive. They were absurd. So I love that. Great change. This might be my favourite change, because I'm so bored of seeing them. I mean, they're very cool units, but all the time? I mean, come on. It's like Noctilus. It's just Noctilus and Lamprey's Revenge every battle. So yeah, that's good. Vampire counts. Vargeist get an extra 4 charge bonus and extra melee damage. So something. That's something. I mean, Vargeist is quite a few of them. So that extra 10 melee damage across, you know, several of them. That's an extra 100 damage if they all hit something, right? So that's kind of nice. Same with the Devils of Schwarzhofen. So it just makes these guys a little bit more viable. So that's something good. I like that. Khan Wraiths, better melee attack. Good, they never have any melee attack. Khan Wraiths, I find they're great. They got armor piercing, fairly cheap source of terror, but usually you've got other sources of terror in your army already, and they're very expensive for something that never really hits. I find they're still... You only really bring them if you're bringing Van Hell's Dance Macabre. Then you can hit them with a big melee attack buff, right? And they can actually start hitting things and getting damage in with that armor piercing. Otherwise, they don't really do a lot, I find. They tend to sit there and eventually crumble because their leadership falls too much. So yeah, having a bit of extra melee attack, I think, will make them a little bit more viable without the need to buff them in order to have them do their job. So that's really good. Tithe are a bit cheaper. Zombies are a bit cheaper. Fair enough. I mean, this, because summons are worse now, it kind of encourages you to bring fodder initially, right? So people are going to be bringing zombies to the fight rather than just bringing all elite stuff and then just dragging them out of the ground, right? They're going to have to bring their own fodder if they want fodder. Well, they won't have to, but it's more encouraged. So just having this stuff cheaper, I think, makes a lot of sense. Just having cheap fodder is great. I really like that. That's a nice change. Yeah, I think that'll go a long way. I think we'll see a lot more sort of horde armies from the vampire counts, which is kind of what they're supposed to do, really. They're not a small elite army like you often see. They're supposed to be a horde of dead, right? So that's great. That's great. Vargulf, extra AP and base damage. So Vargulf's going to do a ton more damage now. So that's going to be very scary. You know, people going with the double Vargulfs, like they often do, they're going to be able to bully things even more. That's pretty substantial. That's going to hurt. I don't know if that's necessary. I don't know. I think at lower level play, I think it'll help more, but high level play, it's never in combat long enough to get crumbled. So that can be really tough. So I don't know. I don't know how this is going to work out in tournament. They might be a little bit too good in sort of tournament level play because of that extra damage. But we'll see. We'll see how this unfolds. But I have a feeling this might be a mistake for high level. Low level, I get it, because they do crumble very fast. And they do get killed by ranged fire very, very fast. But high-level players don't let them get killed by that stuff. So, yeah, it's tough. We'll have to see how this goes. Tomb Kings, the Hyro Titan, will be having a little bit extra melee attack. That's good. They don't seem to get a lot of killing done, honestly. Skeleton Chariots, though, they're going to be cheaper again. So this is very similar to the last patch. They made the cost difference between Chariots and Archer Chariots bigger, because there was almost no reason to bring the Chariots, when for like an extra 50 you could bring Archer Chariots. Now I think the difference is maybe 100 or 150, I think now, so that's really good. It just encourages you to bring something without bows, because it's cheaper, right? Because that's the thing, for just such a tiny extra cost, you may as well get the upgrade, because it's a hefty upgrade. The option of just keeping your distance and shooting stuff for a bit before you run in is actually worth a lot of money. You know, it's worth a lot of funds, so that's nice. I like that. Because, yeah, more Skeleton Chariots is always good. Katep with a Casket of Souls, a little bit cheaper. Nehekara Warriors are cheaper, which is interesting. I like that, because you don't often see them. Usually people either go Tomb Guard or just Skeleton Spearmen or something. So these guys sort of in the mid-tier, they don't seem to get a lot of love. So that's nice, they're a bit cheaper. Maybe people can actually use that as the backbone of their army a bit more, if they're not expecting a lot of ranged fire. I'm not sure where they'd be useful, actually. I was thinking, well, Chaos don't have range, but these guys don't have the armor piercing. So yeah, they don't have a niche, so make them cheaper. That's great. That just helps. That helps them out a lot. Carrion, more expensive, about time. They're just infinitely better than Fellbats and have a very similar job. And they weren't even that, you know, different in cost. If they were at all, actually. I think they were the same cost. So yeah, make them more expensive for sure. Sepulchral Stalkers, plus 3 bones versus large. Makes them a little bit more viable. I like that. I like that. Because generally it was only if they got charged. They could use their charge defense and then attack stuff. But if they didn't get charged, they couldn't really do much. Like, they weren't great if You know, if they charged in, or if the opponent actually got the charge off on them, they just tended to fail a bit. So a bit of extra bonus versus large. It will just help them hang with a lot of better cavalry, which I think is good. That's kind of their job. So I like that. I like that. Casket Souls plus 4 explosion damage plus 8 AP. Nothing huge. Nothing huge. Just a little bit better. Little bit better. And the Bone Giant plus 20 AP projectile damage and 13. So Bone Giant's getting a lot better missile damage there. That's pretty substantial. That will add up for sure. So that's kind of cool. So yeah, they made the sort of ranged stuff that isn't Ushabtu Great Bows a bit better. So hopefully that'll again help create some sort of difference in the armies we see, which is good. So yeah, I like those changes. I think it encourages more variety more than anything else. I don't think it necessarily fixes. Is what a lot of these changes, they don't seem to necessarily fix inherent problems with things. They tend to just increase the variety within a faction, which I think goes a lot further, honestly. I think it goes a lot further. I just think if you change everything to make it so it is perfectly cost-effective, then you're just making a very generic, everything's the same kind of bland army every time, right? You're just bringing what you know is cost-effective. And no amount of tweaks to that unit is going to help. It's the other units that need something to make them more viable, or, you know, make you think, oh yeah, it's a bit cheaper now, actually. I can bring more of those. Interesting. And it's those kind of changes that are really helping, I think. So I like that. It just definitely increases variety. Treekin, -2 charge bonus, plus 5 melee attack and -3 melee defense. So this is interesting. So the Treekin will actually be a bit better at killing things. They're not great at killing things, usually, but they will also be better at dying. So that's, I don't know, that's odd. I feel to me they're the ultimate roadblock, but if they can get in there and actually do some damage to stuff, that would be nice. Especially backed up with other units. So yeah, Treekin might change slightly. They might be viable in slightly different matchups now. So that's kind of interesting to see. And again, I'm looking forward to seeing what people make of this, what people do with it. Glade Riders, though, this is wonderful. Glade Riders are cheaper. That's really good. I like that. I like that a lot. Because the basic ones are pointless. No one ever brings them. No one ever brings them. The Glade Riders with Hagbane tips, slightly more AP, less damage overall, and they deal magical damage. That's right, they deal magical damage. I don't think they did before. No, they didn't, did they? So that's cool. Makes them a little bit different. I mean, they did do poison, sure. They did poison, but doing poison and magic, it means that they're in a cool position where they're not going to be as good as... yeah, they're not going to have like the fire damage of the Glade Guard with... what are the other tips called? Starfire Shafts. And they're going to be a bit different to the standard ones, right? It's that interesting thing where Hagbane tips now do magical damage. And I think that's really good. I think that's really interesting because it gives you a cheaper source of magic damage. You don't have to go with the Swift Shiver Shards if you want magic damage. Well, I guess the Treekin do, but, you know, usually you want your arrows for dealing with different things than Treekin. Treekin aren't going to be assassins, are they? Not really. So that's kind of cool. I like this change. I think that's really interesting. That's going to make things a little bit different. More AP as well, so this could be better at armored targets too. So I think for taking out like big stuff, I think actually Hagbane tips might be amazing against Bretonnia now. Things like Grail Knights or Grail Guardians. That magic damage is going to cut through their physical resist, and the extra AP will cut through their armor. This could be really cool to see. And the poison slowed them down, so it's huge. That's actually really impressive. So yeah, this might have some pretty big implications. We might see these guys in a lot of different matchups. Skaven as well, maybe. But I think with all the weapons teams, they'll get gunned down pretty quickly nowadays, so it's a tough one to call. Anyway, this is the one thing in this patch notes I just don't get at all. Wardens of Scythrol, more expensive. Are they being overused? Are they too good? No one ever brings Wildwood Rangers at all. I think Wildwood Rangers need so much love right now. They're too flimsy. They never get value, because if you throw something cheap at them, that cheap thing will still kill them, because they just don't have enough armor to withstand damage from just cheap blows from, you know, just like Empire swordsmen and crap like that. So they never get value. You have to throw them at the most expensive thing you can find, and usually they just get shot to pieces before then. Because, yeah, they have no missile resistance or anything, they just die. They're just bad. They're bad. They don't need to be more expensive, in my mind. Oh, well, these guys do have shields. I'll give them that. But, yeah, I don't know. It seems weird to make them more expensive. I don't see these guys being used at all. And when they are, they never steal the show. So, it seems odd. Seems odd to me. I think Wildwood Rangers, just in general, need a lot of love right now. Because, yeah, they're one unit you never see in the Wood Elves. And that's really sad. I think they're such a cool unit. But yeah, they're just not, they're not viable, like ever, which is a real shame. So, Way Watchers. Extra reload time. I think that'll actually make a big difference. I think it'll make a big difference. It'll lower their DPS a fair bit. So that's kind of cool. I like that. Yeah, fair enough. That's cool. I like that. Lizardmen, Primal Instincts. This is huge. This is huge. Activation threshold reduced to 20% health left. So if you guys don't remember, Primal Instincts is the thing that makes all those Lizardmen units rampage when they hit 50% health. Yeah, very annoying, right? Now, it's 20% health instead of 50. This will only apply to the sort of, like the professional Lizardmen units, I guess, is one way to say it. All the feral stuff doesn't have Primal Instincts. All the feral units just have Rampage, so that still hits at 50. So it means there's some differentiation between the feral units and the ones that are trained professionals, right? The ones that are actually in the army, not just a dinosaur you brought along. So I think that makes a lot of sense, and I love it. I think that's great. So also, it buffs them. So extra charge bonus and melee attack. I mean, plus 8 melee attack is pretty substantial, especially on something cheap like a skink, you know, hitting that. But, of course, when you've got 20% health left, there's a chance you're going to run away. There's quite a stiff chance you're running. So, yeah, it's interesting. So for anything that is staying in the fight, it's just a great last-ditch effort to do some damage before they go down, which I think is really cool. I really like that. It's definitely way more interesting. So, yep. Yeah, this is great. I think this is amazing. This is probably the biggest change to Lizardmen. That's going to change how people play them more than anything else. Horned ones are slightly worse. Cold One Spear Riders are slightly worse. Cold One Riders are slightly worse. All this is just making up for the fact that they had inflated stats because they rampaged at 50%. Now that you can actually cycle charge them until they hit 20%, that's huge. You know, I mean, sure, you could use cold-blooded to stop the rampage, but you couldn't cold-blood, like, if you had a huge army of cavalry, you couldn't stop them all rampaging, so they tended to end up in just horrible matchups, horrible engagements because of the rampage. So, that's actually, yeah, this is fine, these lowering things, because they just had better stats because of the rampage. Now, the rampage isn't such a big deal, so they don't need as high stats. So they're still going to be a lot better than they were, I think. Croc on Foot has more health. Yep, more love for the Foot Lords. Also, charge defense versus large and bonus versus large. So I like that. I like that a lot. You can, hopefully, go toe-to-toe with some big monsters now. On foot. I mean, that's pretty bold. Also, the Cold One and the Horned One, plus 8 bonus versus large. It's going to be better versus large, generally, which is nice, on, like, the cheaper stuff. Which I think is really good. Because sometimes you don't want to bring Grimlock, because he's a big target, right? So you can bring a slightly smaller target, and he can still do work. So I like that a lot. Skink Chief on Pterodon now has stronger drop rocks projectile. That makes a lot of sense, because they just get one rock, and it's always a bit disappointing. So the idea of the Skink Chief and the Skink Priest both getting better drop rocks is kind of cool. Also, the Pterodons with more mass. Yeah, if any of these guys ever get into combat, they never get out if they're on a Pterodon. They can never push past anybody. You think they just fly up, but no, they try and push up through people. So extra mass, definitely nice, because they are very flimsy. You can often lose these guys out if you have to just desperately throw them into something to slow it down. They'll just get killed. It's sad. So yeah, a bit of extra mass. It means they got a bit more utility. So I like this. These are nice changes. Bretonnia, Pegasus Knights, better charge bonus. I mean, yeah, alright. Pegasus Knights, Royal Pegasus Knights, better charge bonus. I mean, both of these are just like, yeah, they already have crazy high charge bonus, so +3 doesn't make a huge amount of difference either way, to be honest. Men-at-Arms with polearms, though, they're cheaper and better bonus versus large. I think this is impressive, because polearms you didn't often see quite so much. People didn't tend to rely on the polearms to do that, to be their like anti-large units, so, you know, you'd rather just bring cavalry to do that. So it's kind of nice, I think, that these guys have, that they're a bit cheaper. It makes them a little bit more viable, because you can bring, you know, a couple of these for the cost of, say, a Knights of the Realm, right? So, yeah, I like that. It's interesting. Beastslayers of Baston, they have better bonus versus large as well now, which is good. And the Companions of Quenelles, way cheaper, which I'm not entirely sure if that's totally necessary or not. I mean, I don't see them that often, and that could be what they're gauging this on. Make them cheaper because they're not being seen that often. And yeah, they are quite expensive. I mean, they're so close to sort of Grail Knights, you're often better just bring Grail Knights. They're very expensive. I mean, that armor piercing is great, to be fair. But yeah, they are quite pricey, so I can kind of see that. Again, looking forward to seeing if this makes them, you know, makes people bring these guys a lot. It might. It actually might. So we'll see. We'll see. Skaven Assassin, Vanguard. That's right, all the Assassins are getting Vanguard now. It's great. Now use the Assassin's Trophy instead of Queek's unique trophy heads, which makes total sense. It's odd that he used Queek's one. But hey, it's also cheaper, so that's kind of awesome. So yeah, I like that. Yeah, Assassins, Vanguarding, it always bothered me that a lot of the sort of Assassin units in the game didn't have Vanguard, because you'd have things like, you know, your Night Runners and stuff like that, and your Assassin couldn't hang out with them. And that was really sad. It's like, there's my Eshin contingent, but the Assassin is stuck with all my Storm Vermin. It was a bit rubbish. So that's good. I really like that. Summon Plague Monks, correct. Entity health to match Plague Monks. So apparently the Plague Monks got changed at one point, and the Plague Monks summoned didn't get changed, so now they match, so fine. Warriors of Chaos. Sigvold, extra melee attack. Fair enough, he can get more killing done. He's basically invincible, so having him just sitting in melee against a billion things, yeah, let him get some killing done. I like that. Forsaken, better charge bonus. Demon Spew, better charge bonus. Yeah, fair enough, do a little more damage in the charge. They're very glass cannony. They can get killed very quickly by like gunfire or anything. So a little bit of extra charge bonus helps them get through the chaff a little bit quicker, which is nice. Marauder Horsemasters, better ammo, but the Javelins have less ammo. Alright, fair enough. I mean, they're the elite ones, these are the rubbish ones, but I can't remember how much ammo they each had anyway, so for all I know they have the same ammo now. I don't know. Chaos Spawn, extra melee attack. I like that. I like that a lot. Chaos Spawn, certain circumstances they can get quite a bit of killing done. Sometimes though, no, not really. And sadly for Chaos, there's just so many more viable units than Chaos Spawn to bring. Chaos Spawn can be quite good in the Beastmen roster, that you know, can't just be like, oh, to bring everything with armor, you know. So it's kind of cool, I think, to have the Chaos Spawn be a bit better here. Swords of Chaos, 100 cheaper. That is gigantic. Having cheaper Swords of Chaos is actually a real big deal, because no one ever brings these guys. Their model counts are so low that most of the time, any artillery or any spell, any ranged thing that hits them, they'll lose a couple of models and they just lose their combat effectiveness so fast because the model counts are so small. So they never seem to work out so well. So yeah, having them cheaper, brilliant. Brilliant. That needed to happen sooner, I think. That's great. And Giants are faster. Cool. Do you know what knows? There's a lot of factions in the game now. There's a hell of a lot of factions. So, Norsca, Marauder Horsemasters. Now he's the same melee weapon as Marauder Horsemasters. Oh, it's Chaos Horsemasters. Okay, cool. Fair enough. That was never something I noticed, but that's fine. And more ammo, Javelins, less ammo. Same as Chaos. They're just matching Chaos, basically. Armoured Skin Wolves, slightly cheaper for the Armoured Skin Wolves, which is interesting because I've been seeing a lot of Skin Wolves lately. So, cheaper Armoured Skin Wolves, I think, is kind of cool. More Savagery as well, they're following suit. The Feral Mammoth, though, is going to be more expensive. Fair enough. I think most of the time when people bring a Mammoth, they just bring the Feral Mammoth because it can still run down any super expensive artillery. Some of the, not artillery, infantry, has a gigantic health pool. It just does the job, you know? Who cares if it rampages? You just throw it in it and kill everything it touches. In terms of the front line, anyway. As long as you keep the big stuff away from it, you know, you're fine. So yeah, that being a bit more expensive, I can see that. It seems to be the only one people tend to bring. So, yep, make that a bit more expensive. And the War Shrine, no one ever brings it. No one ever brings it. It's buffs. I can't even remember them off the top of my head, the things that it does, because it's just not worth the cost. It is so expensive, so making it cheaper, that is a big start. That will certainly help. At least just it being in the patch notes, someone is going to try it. They're going to go, oh yeah, that's a unit. What's that do again? And they're going to bring it. So that's great. That's a great change. Also, Giants are faster. Beastmen, Giants are faster. Yeah, all the Giants are faster, guys. It's fine. Minotaurs, the basic version, have slightly better melee attack, which I think makes a lot of sense. You know, they don't have the benefit of shields. They have quite low melee defense. So yeah, just making them be able to hit things a bit better is nice. Chaos Spawn again, extra melee attack. So I like that change. And yeah, so Beastmen haven't had a lot of love. Not a lot of changes. But honestly, I think Beastmen are in a good place. So fair enough. Abilities. Whew. That's a lot of abilities, huh? So, Primal Instincts. Yep, so reduced from Rampage from 50 to 20. And they get some buffs. Yeah. Shem's Burning Gaze. Extra AP. Nope, extra explosion damage, less AP, less projectile damage, and less bonus versus large per projectile. So, alright, so better for clusters of cheaper stuff, basically. And with the upgraded version, actually does just a ton more explosion damage. So, yeah, better against big clumps of expensive stuff, but less for single models. That's the thing, a lot of these spells were just being used to snipe out lords and heroes all the time. all the time. So now that's a bit more viable for like infantry and things. So you're not just trying to assassinate heroes every single time with all this stuff. So I think that's a nice change. Hand of the Gods seems to be the same thing. Vindictive Glare, far less explosion damage. Like, way less. But base missile, okay, how is this even going? So this is less, this is sort of the opposite of that. Upgraded, again, way less. I mean, this thing was doing a stupid amount of damage. I think the explosion damage was, I think it's because the explosion damage was so high, even hitting a single model, it was doing like a stupid amount of damage because the damage is so high for the explosion damage. The explosion was killing them afterwards, after the initial hit. But less bonus versus large as well per projectile. I mean, that's huge per projectile. So that's, yeah, that's 66 damage just straight up from the anti-large if they all hit. And then there's all the other damage to calculate. So, yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Power cost of 4. Did it cost 3 before? Or did it cost 5? I can't remember. Can't remember off the top of my head. Anyway, so yeah, alright, less crazy, hopefully. Vindictive Glare was just mental. It was just an instant pick every time. And I was getting very bored of Vindictive Glare spam. So, Gaze of Mork. Yeah, it's just all of these seem to be following a similar thing. So less bonus versus large for a lot of them. Things like Gaze and Gash that never did a thing. I mean, that one's just sucked. They've made it more in line with the other magic missiles by the looks of it. They've actually added bonus versus large. So that's good. Power cost of 15, though. That is just gigantic. Yeah, I don't see anyone bringing Gaze and Nagash in a hurry, if I'm honest. Yeah, it's sad. Comet Kazandora, though. Pretty great. Extra AP damage on the Comet. Not the explosion, though. Just the Comet. So, still, that's huge. That's a lot of extra damage. That could do a lot to sort of elite infantry or cavalry. So that's really cool. I really like that. Because it is a very slow spell. It's very damaging, but very slow. But it wasn't so damaging that it was worth the risk a lot of the time. You know, you rarely saw someone be like, you know, Net of Amatok, Comet Kazandora combo. That'd be all your wins of magic, and it just wouldn't do enough damage. So this is interesting to see. I think this could be really cool to see Comet Kazandora in action. So, High King. Remove requirement for targeted units to be above 50% morale. Okay, that means High King is just going to be used on everything, which is great. That's a really good move. Beloved Son of Bretonnia. Remove requirement for targeted unit. Okay, so yeah, a lot of the time it's just... A lot of abilities would only work at certain points, and it was really difficult for people to gauge when it was active, when it wasn't, and this just takes a lot of the fuss out of it, which I think is a nice move. I think that's a very good move, to be honest. Warp Shard Armor. -5 melee defense debuff. Who had the Warp Shard Armor? I can't remember who's got the Warp Shard Armor. But, hey, an extra melee defense debuff. Someone tell me who's got the Warp Shard Armor. I can't remember. I'm assuming it's one of the Skaven, because it's Warp. But let me know, because that might be super useful. Anyway, Dwarf Gouger. That's Queek's. Queek's ice pick, basically. Added, wow, plus 26 melee attack, and it reduced the duration a bit. So, yeah, it can be really, really powerful. For a time. For a time. Soldier is cool. Now buffs melee attack by 9. Soldier is cool. Is that a Beastman thing? I'm finding it so difficult to remember this stuff at the moment. Damn me. Anyway, Slaughter is cool, now buffs melee attack by +9. Again, if you can remember what Slaughter is cool is on. Pretty sure it's a Beastman thing. Oh, that might actually be, that might be on Gorbals. I don't bring Gorbals often. Revenge Incarnate. That's removed max number of uses. Remove leadership increase. So this is what I looked at in a replay yesterday. The Revenge Incarnate is what's his name? Belagar's. It's Belagar's thing. And yeah, before he could only use it once. It was just a one-trick pony and it sucked. So that's really good to see. Van Horseman's Speculum changed the radius from 40 to 30. So that's a debuff that the Vampire Coast have. And yeah, it was a bit crazy. It was very good. So I just think lowering the radius is a good idea. It makes it less powerful because it hits less units. That's simple. Star of Avalon, 10% less health healed per second. I mean, that just equates to 10% less healing, and I still think it does so much healing. 10% is still full health for everything it hits, pretty much. You know, it's still so powerful. 10% doesn't seem like a big enough dent to me. So yeah, I think they could go further, but it is a step in the right direction. So credit where it's due. That is a step in the right direction, but I don't think it's a big enough step. I just think the Star of Avalon is still so powerful. So, dreaded 13th spell. It's improved targeting UI. Because yeah, the UI was a bit annoying to target. It's difficult to sort of at a glance to know where the explosion would be and where the summon would turn up, because you want to put the summon on the thing you're attacking, but then it wouldn't. But the explosion would be next to the thing that you're. It was weird. So, alright, so we'll have to see how the UI looks. Detonation speed has been changed. Is that good? Is it quicker now or slower? I don't know. But it also adds more explosion damage, so it'll blow stuff up more. But of course, yeah, you're going to have your storm vermin. They're not going to be unbreakable, and they'll have a time limit on them now. So we'll see how that works. Drop rocks ability for characters is better, which makes a lot of sense. General bug fixes. Alright, so we've done our patch notes essentially, right? We've done our multiplayer thing. So this is now bonus. So bonus, guys, general bug fixes. I'm going to go through this too while I'm here. Might as well. So Elithar's Shadow Crown mission now triggers. Fix several instances where braziers would appear sunken in the ground on battle maps. Yeah, I've seen that actually. It's a bit silly. So that's nice. Punitive trait now correctly decreases enemy missile resistance. Crone Hellebron now enters the battle with the correct fatigue level based on her Death Knight meter. Flagellants now receive the correct buffs from Lord Skills. Sword of Chaos now receives the correct buffs from Lord Skills. Tomb King Veteran Infantry now correctly applies its bonuses to Tomb King's Infantry Regiments of Renown. Cetra's unique skills now correctly apply their bonuses to Kepragard. Morag Heg, the Crone technology, now correctly gives physical resistance rather than ward save. Loki Felhart now benefits from the text Master of Murder and Hardship and Cruelty. Vampire Coast Captains will now modify public order without the need to have a point placed in spread public order. Scavengers, the New World technology now applies to Vampire Coast settlements. White King now has access to Barded Steed Mount. Hates Tomb King's trait now gives Fear attribute when fighting against Tomb Kings. Targeted spells and abilities are no longer cancelled when units rout off the battlefield. Projectiles with a fuse should now detonate correctly on Hellfen battle map. Oh, that's odd. That seems very specific. Anyway, I don't know, it's because they end up in the water and they can't blow up. I don't know. Ambush failed text no longer will be displayed when you choose to fight during a sea encounter. Chaos Transport ship's boat row animation should now play correctly. Crone Hellebron's Amulet of Dark Fire quest now triggers at rank 2. Loki of Felhart's Red Blades quest now triggers at rank 2. Recruit rank now displays correctly when utilizing lots of plus recruitment rank effects. Night Goblin Fanatic's Sphere Chain is now properly connected to the Night Goblin Fanatic's hands. The Skaven Corruption button now highlights when triggered with the shortcut key. The treasure maps and pieces of 8 panels now close when using the shortcut key. Fix an instance where diplomacy and advisor voice could trigger at the same time. Crypt Horrors are now gripping their weapons correctly during move orders. The dainty paws of the crew member on the back of the Doom Wheel now line up correctly with the hands they are pumping. With the handle they are pumping. Pirate coves are no longer visible by the other player in multiplayer head-to-head campaigns. Oh wow, that's actually really beneficial. Warlock Engineers now start with Warp Lightning Spell. Reflections on Mirror Guards and Sigil Shields now display correctly. Loki of Felhart's ship should now animate correctly. Lords and Heroes should now appear as the correct faction colour in event messages. Fix a rare issue where Infamy list would only display one entry. The Oath Gold skill now generates more gold per turn for runesmiths and rune lords. Armies and multiple heroes embedded will no longer lag during movement. Fixed a rare issue that could cause the UI to be blank during the pre-battle screen. Hargonet Executioners can now be recruited from Black Arcs. Hero Emblem is no longer low resolution when playing in 4K. Intervention cost text no longer overlapped panel in 4K. Fix some issues with numbers appearing in small font in 4K. Diplomacy options will now display correctly on screen in lower resolutions. Fix some instances where the event images for puzzles would not display their colours correctly. Fix instances where units were showing incorrect weapons as part of their model, particularly with dual wielders. Helman Gorse and Vlad von Karstein's Lord effects now apply when confederated. The Red Duke's Barded Nightmare look is now consistent in campaign and battle. Event messages will no longer close when the cursor is moved between the picture and text. White Kings now have Barded Skeletal Steed in their campaign skill tree. Ungrim Iron Fist now has a victory condition to defeat Chaos. Fix an issue that will cause a crash when pressing escape too frequently during a Tomb King's intro movie. Port Alistor will no longer appear partially submerged when the Royal Garrison building is constructed. The geomantic web information is will no longer appear over buttons surrounding the end turn button lower resolutions. The arrow showing the direction of the Star Metal Harpoon quest location will no longer turn into a square when the building browser is open. The button for the quest location inside the Star Metal Harpoon mission panel will no longer overrun when playing in 4K resolution. Demolishing the Royal Menagerie will now correctly remove the building rather than lower the level. Temple Training Grounds technology no longer has a duplicate entry for Sister Slaughter in the tooltip. The trait Hates Vampire Coast now has effects. Black Pyramid of Nagash now has building available for construction when occupied by Wood Elves. Vampire Coast Mutineers will now have more variety in their armies when spawned. Durthu's Eldest of Ancients Lord trait now applies to Forest Dragons and Branch Raids. Vampire Counts no longer engage in diplomacy with Warriors of Chaos. Cavalry is no longer listed twice in Count Noctilus's victory conditions. Mods and save games. For those who have different mod lists across different campaign saves or struggle to remember which mods are used for which save, we've added a feature that warns you when you attempt to load a game without activating mods it may require. We hope it will avoid unnecessary technical issues and crashes when you attempt to load a save that requires a specific mod. Thank you guys. I've been Janet on occasion, and I'm out of breath now. That was a lot. There's a lot, guys. But there you go, multiplayer balance changes and other stuff. It all looks really promising. It all looks really promising to me. I think it's great. I think this is a great step in the right direction. Apart from the Wildwood Rangers Regiment Renowned. Why are they more expensive? Come on, guys. Come on. But yeah, for there to be only one gripe in the entirety of the patch notes, this is awesome. This is really good. This is going in a great direction. So yeah, I can't wait for everyone to get their hands on it and to play with all the new stuff and with all the newly tweaked stuff. It's going to be great. So guys, if you enjoyed this, always stay tuned for more news. Hit that subscribe button and all the rest of it. You know, press like, do the things, and I will see you in the next one. Have a good day, guys.